Okay, she be gone every single night. Then I don't mind pushing you to vibe.
How's it going, everybody? This is Tyler Drabber. Hope you're having another great day, and welcome back to another video. Alright, it's time for another edition of Haulin Games. In this series, I'll talk about all the pickups that I got into my video game collection throughout every month. And for this one, I'm going to be showing you all the games that I got into my collection for the month of November of 2022. Now, obviously, I mentioned in my last Haulin Games video that I was going to have to tone down on my spending a little bit. However, I did realize that November, well, it was my birth month. So, obviously, the fact that I didn't spend as much as I did prior to the last week of November, I thought, why not pick things up a little bit and see if I could add some real gems in my collection. And so for this month, this is entirely a PlayStation 1 collection. This is all PS1 games. I got 18 of them right here for this month. And this one, there are actually quite a few gems in this collection that I've had my eyes on for quite some time that I want to get, and I finally managed to get them for this month. And no better time to get them than during my birth month. So I'll show you exactly what those are in just a moment. But right now, we're gonna get right into it. So we're just gonna start right now with all of our sports games. And the very first one is usually it will all be racing games. However, this one is a little bit different. I found this one for a really good cost, and I thought it was really interesting just by eye. So I thought I'd go ahead and pick this one up. This is called Kurt Warner's Arena Football Unleashed. This was released all the way back in, I believe, either 1999 or 2000. I don't remember what it is, but this was during the time that the Arena Football League was really beginning to take its shape. Of course, Kurt Warner is the face of it because, as we all know, he is an NFL Hall of Famer, and of course, he got his start through the Arena Football League. So obviously, this is all the hard-hitting action that takes place in the indoor 50-yard fields, obviously, and man, there's a lot of action in this one, just like the two Arena Football games that I already have for the PlayStation 2. It's definitely a really unique one. I didn't really know if I wanted to get something outside racing, but I saw this one, and you know what, I really like the hard-hitting action of Arena Football, and so why not just go ahead and add this one in my collection, and I do enjoy it so far. I definitely am looking forward to playing this a little more. Then we get into a couple of racing games. The first one is called Colin McRae Rally, released back in 2000. Obviously, this is based off of the world of rallying, and of course, really the face of it is the superstar, the late rallier, Colin McRae, and this was another game that I had on my radar for quite some time, but I felt like that I wanted to get this one now, and so I'm happy to have this one. Pretty good game as well. The next one is really the first big gem of this month's collection. It's called R4 Ridge Racer Type 4. I mentioned that there are quite a few gems that I wanted to get, that I wanted to add in my collection, that I managed to get for this month. This is the very first one of them. This was released all the way back in 1998 or 1999, somewhere around that, but this was really widely regarded by some as the best of the Ridge Racer franchise. I mean, there's a lot that takes place in this game, you know, all the cool graphics, you know, all the scenes, and also a lot of the cool sounds of racing, obviously. Of course, it's very similar to all the other Ridge Racer games, but this was the one that made say top it as the best. And of course, it's another one of those games that really, if you're a huge racing fan back in the late 1990s and you enjoyed playing the PlayStation 1, you felt like that you had to get this one because this one was really unique in its own way. And this was one that I had in my mind for such a long time that I wanted to get. I'm so glad I finally got this in my collection, and I'm really looking forward to getting to play this one. Up next in my collection for this month is actually a bike racing game, a really ironic one. It's called Road Rash. Now, this was actually an import for the PlayStation 1 that was released back in, I believe, 1995 that is, but this was a really wicked import. It's obviously a bike racing game, however, it's racing on the streets against a whole bunch of other racers, and you have a whole bunch of weapons as well. You get to kick them off their bikes, you also have a whole bunch of weapons like chains or something like that to try to knock them off, and you have to survive police chases as well. Man, this was such a crazy game. I mean, the first time I played this earlier this month, I could not believe what I saw. I definitely believe this is probably one of the more underrated racing games of the early days of the PlayStation family of consoles. I mean, this was definitely a wild one to play, and I'm definitely looking forward to playing this more because this game is awesome. Then we have a couple of racers based off of TVs and movie shows. And the first one is called Toy Story Racer. This was based off of, you know, the film Toy Story, in which you get to race against other characters from the films of Toy Stories 1 and 2. And obviously it's a little bit consensuous because obviously, although it's almost similar to games like Mario Kart and Smurf Racer, it's really not as exciting as those ones. However, it's definitely a good pickup that I wanted to get, and so I'm happy happy to have this one. The next one after that is called South Park Rally. Boy, who can't get enough of South Park, man? Obviously, the original South Park game that I got last year was really weird. The same thing can be said as well for South Park Rally. Released back in 1999, it's obviously now one of those racing games, and obviously a lot of craziness that takes place in this one. You're racing against some of your other characters from the hit TV show South Park. You have a lot of weapons and also a lot of cussing that gets censored as well. I played a little bit about this already, and man, there's a lot of cussing that goes on in this one. Good thing they have that censorship button in there. So yeah, obviously this and Toy Story Racer, obviously two more games that I've had in my mind for a little while, but I really didn't know if I wanted to get it up until this point, but finally I pulled the trigger this month, obviously. And you know, obviously I love Toy Story, and although I don't watch too much South Park, you know, it's definitely pretty hilarious, and so I'm glad I was able to get those racers, and obviously I'm looking forward to getting to play both of them more. The last racer of the month, and this is actually a pretty good one actually. It's also because it's in a different setting. This is called RC to Go. Now this game was actually first released back in Japan in 1999. However, it was made as a US import for the PlayStation 1 in 2000 by Acclaim, and this was actually a really good one. Unlike in other racing games, this one is basically RC control. Obviously, these are remote control cars that you're playing, and it's probably the only one that I think there is for the PlayStation 1. I mean, I don't know if there's others for the PlayStation 2 or 3 or other consoles, something like that. This is the only one that I know of from any of the other PlayStation consoles, and you know, to get to play RC control cars instead of the usual cars that you would play in other racing games, it's actually a pretty good out of balance like game there that I got to play, and really I've already enjoyed it so far. Yeah, it's definitely a different texture than what you would normally see out of other racing games. I mean, kids love RC control cars, obviously, and so this is a game obviously that many would definitely want to play for themselves, and this was one that I felt like at the last minute I felt like I wanted to try for myself, and so I'm happy to have this one. I already enjoyed it so far. This is definitely going to be a game that I'm going to be enjoying playing with my little brother. Moving right along, we got a few more shooters here that I want to get into, and the first one of them is called Project Overkill. Now I don't know too much about this game, unfortunately. I do know that it's definitely one of those more gory shooters for its time for the PS1, but hey, you know what, this is another game that I felt like I wanted to try to see for myself, and really it's definitely not as enjoyable so far, but you know, I am going to get used to it, but I am looking forward to playing this more. The next game that I got after that, and this is another gem I've wanted to get, it's called Disruptor. This game I've had on my radar ever since I first saw gameplay of this back in 2020. Yes, that's right, this was probably one of the original futuristic first-person shooters. You're shooting a whole bunch of aliens, a whole bunch of those creatures, and a whole lot of your enemies as well, and I mean, although the cutscenes might be a little bit bad in my opinion, this was definitely one of the original early first-person shooter hits for the PlayStation 1. Those that may remember playing the PlayStation 1 earlier in those days, one of the games that you have to remember is Disruptor, and this was a game that ever since I first saw a gameplay of it, I've been wanting to get for at least the last year and a half since I started video game collecting. I finally have it here. I'm so looking forward to getting to play the whole story mode, and hopefully I get to enjoy shooting some aliens and a whole bunch of those creatures in that game. Really sick. Following up one gem with yet another one. This one is called Time Crisis, which was released for the PlayStation 1 back in 1997, the original rail shooter in PlayStation consoles. Obviously, rail shooters are very short, just like, for example, you know, the Legend of Jesse James Gunfire game that I got earlier this year, but this was the one that inspired that one. This one really is probably the most successful rail shooter franchise in its time, and obviously, it spanned a whole bunch of sequels as well, you know. I remember like back in the early 2000s while I was playing the PlayStation 2, I actually had Time Crisis 3, in which I actually had my own gun as my own control. Like, you know, those orange toy guns and something like that. I get to shoot it at a TV, you know, get to try to take out some bad guys. However, it's under a short amount of time, but that's how I remember that one. It was just through that one. But yeah, that was the only Time Crisis game that I remember playing during that time. I definitely looked at getting some more Time Crisis game in the future. I just never really had the time because I didn't really have that much interest in it at that time. But this was another one of those gems that if you are a huge fan of the PlayStation 1, you have to have in your collection. And so actually I felt like as soon as I saw it that I need to go get this one, and so I'm happy that I did it, and maybe if I can get my own toy PlayStation gun or something like that, I can go ahead and start doing the same thing that I did when I was a kid. Next one I got after that, oh, this is a bad game here. This is Chronicles of the Sword, released back in I believe 1996 or something like that, but oh man, just like Bubsy 3D last month, this is a game that I wish I had sold back to the digital press that I got this from. Everything about this game is just bad. I mean, literally, the graphics are probably some of the worst I've ever seen. There's literally no sound in them whatsoever. The lines of this game, some of the characters are just absolutely poorly written, and just the gameplay in itself. I mean, you have to use like a quick point mouse instead of your actual controls on your remote control on that one. I mean, literally, this entire production of this game is just flat out awful. I mean, it is what it is at this point. It's in my collection, so there's really nothing I can do about it at this point. But man, if there was one game in this collection that I wish I had taken back, it is this one. I mean, if you have ever played this game, trust me right now, you would not stand this one at all. I mean, this is just awful. Chronicles of the Sword, yeah, that's a very bad one. However, fortunately, the next one, it's in a much better mood. This is Resident Evil Director's Cut. Now, this is actually the Director's Cut version of the original Resident Evil, but if I'm right in saying this, I believe it is still the same exact game. This is based off the original horror video game franchise for the PlayStation, Resident Evil, and man, there's a lot of goriness, there's a lot of monsters in this game. The cutscenes are really crazy to see as well. There's so much about this game that makes this and the entire franchise so famous for its horror and its gore. I just felt like that I needed to pull the trigger this month as soon as I saw it for a pretty good price. And yeah, I mean, obviously, it spawned a few films as well, obviously, and also a whole bunch of more games that came after that as well. So Resident Evil, it is up there as perhaps one of the greatest video game franchises of all time, and probably the single greatest horror video game franchise there is for the PlayStation. And this was the one, well, absolutely, this is the director's cut, but the original one, the Resident Evil, that was the one that started it off. And so maybe, hopefully soon, I might get the original version of it to see how that one goes, compares to the original director's cut version of this, but that one's really expensive, so that one's going to be a little bit further down the road. But either way, I'm happy to have this one. Next up in this collection is called the Powerpuff Girls Chemical Extraction, and to be honest with you, just like with Chronicles of the Sword, I really don't know why I even bothered to pick up this game in the first place. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it's based off of the show, the Powerpuff Girls, that was released on Cartoon Network during the early 2000s, and it was popular during that time, of course. But, it's a show that mostly little girls would watch, but I have seen some guys watch it as well. But, this is a game that would probably be more attractive to those younger children that would really enjoy playing the Powerpuff Girls, or even seeing it as well. But then again, I also have Dexter's Laboratory Mandark Swab on that, and that was a pretty good game, so who knows, maybe I can still get a kick out of this one. Next up, two more games I wanted to add in my collection for quite some time. The first one is Donald Duck Going Quackers. I do remember having this game. I think it was the PlayStation 1 version that I had of it when I was a little kid, and I really want to get the PS2 version of this soon, but this is still another game that I have on my radar, based off of, the hit characters from the Mickey Mouse family, and Donald Duck, obviously one of those favorites, and so I'm very happy to have this one in my collection again, a really good one. The next one I have is called The Smurfs. Another one that I wanted to add in my collection for a while. This was released back in 1999 by Infogrames. Obviously, this would later be followed up by Smurf Racer, but this was the original Smurfs for the PlayStation 1, and I wanted to get this for quite some time, just like most of the other games that I have here. I mean, you get to play some of your favorite Smurfs as well. You also get to raise your own Smurf baby as well. There's a little bit of a unique twist in the storyline as well. I mean, obviously, it's a really short game. That's the one problem that I have with this. I really wish it was slightly longer than that. But either way, though, this is still another decent game for its time. I'm really happy that I have this one, and I'm looking forward to playing the whole story mode of this a little bit later on. Those that know me know that I really enjoyed the original Spider-Man that I got for the PS1 a couple months ago, so why not follow that up by getting its sequel? It's Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro. This was released all the way back in 2001, and basically picks up right where the original Spider-Man from 2000 left off. Obviously, a brand new storyline, new villains, but at the same time, the same action as well. Obviously, flying around buildings, spraying people with all the webs, obviously, a whole lot of those good street fights and all that stuff. It's basically what you would want out of a Marvel video game, especially with its star character, Spider-Man. Now again, I did have the original Spider-Man when I was a kid. I obviously wanted to get that again. I'm happy to have that. However, I've never played the sequel for the PS1 version of it. It was just intellectual. So obviously, this will be completely new to me. I am looking forward to getting to try this out, but if it's like the original Spider-Man, I am really going to enjoy having this game in my collection. I really enjoy Spider-Man on the first one, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting to play this one. Alright, final 2 games for this month. The first one is called Dark Light Conflict. Now, this is another one of those weird arcade games in which obviously you're in space, obviously, and you're fighting off against those villains outside in your starship and obviously destroying asteroids and all that stuff. I put this more in games like, Missile Command and, asteroids and all that stuff. That's why I kind of find it more similar to that. But obviously, there's a lot of similarities to that one, and so obviously I feel like this will be another good one. So I'm definitely looking forward to playing this one. And the last one that I have for this month is called Jigsaw Madness. There's nothing really special about this one. This is pretty much basically another one of those games that you would definitely play with your family whenever you're around with them. Obviously, your parents or maybe even your siblings or cousins or all that stuff. It's just basically solving those jigsaw puzzles like you would normally do when you're in the dining room, playing with your jigsaw puzzles on the table and all that stuff. So it's basically almost similar to that, but in a more video game version. I mean, this was basically a impulse pickup. I mean, obviously, I was just trying to keep it under a few bucks under that time, and so I felt like that, I needed something random, and so this is one that I decided to get. But I am definitely going to play this with my little brother whenever he's up with me, and hopefully with my other friends as well. This definitely could be exciting, but we'll just have to see on that front. There are several gems that I got in this one. There was actually one more that I actually want to get for this month. I actually literally saw this last week. It was actually a game called Skull Monkeys. Now, this was actually another game that I've had on my radar for quite some time. Over the last 3 years, actually, or something like that. The problem is that that game is extremely rare and extremely hard to find. And when I saw it at Digital Press, it was like $80 or something like that. So I just felt like that, the next time I came back there that month, hopefully it would be there like sometime during like Black Friday or something like that. So that way I could probably add that into my collection. But unfortunately, when I did get back there for the Black Friday sale, unfortunately somebody else already took it. It sucks. Obviously, it's a rarity that I do want to add in my collection at some point. But I say that it's expensive because after the video game store, obviously on eBay is a lot higher than that. So I'm hoping that the next time I see it in the store, I can probably go ahead and get that in my collection, but hopefully at a decent enough price where it doesn't really shoot the bill or something like that, because I know that's extremely expensive, but hopefully I will get that game soon. But still, games like Time Crisis, Resident Evil Director's Cut, R4 Ridge Racer Type 4, I am happy to have those in my collection. But yeah, otherwise for my birth month, this was definitely a pretty good selection of choices, obviously. Again, a bunch of major gems in this one, and also some oddballs as well, but either way, for a PlayStation 1 only collection for my birth month, I definitely felt like I made the most of it. But next month, for the last month of the year for video game collecting, obviously I'll once again have another week-long shop-a-rama. I mean, I'm going to do that sometime late December, so hopefully I can add some good games, not just for the PS1, but for all my other consoles as well. And yeah, one more month to collect video games for this year, and so I'm definitely looking forward to making the most of it. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. As always, if you'd like to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when my latest video is released. Comment below for future suggestions for all my videos, whether it's vlogs, projects, or challenges, you name it. Leave it in the comments below and I'll do my best to make them. As always, follow me on my social media. All the links are in the description below. That's going to do it for another midweek upload. I hope you're all having another great day. As always, I hope to see all of you again in another video very soon. So long, everybody.